acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional custodians of the land and waters, the Nurrungeri people. Sorry, new glasses, councillors. Fell off. Who are the traditional custodians of the land and waters on which we meet today. We acknowledge the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of Aboriginal people to country and pay respect to elders past and present. We also extend that respect to all First Nations people. Okay, thank you. Items on the agenda. Apologies, councillors, we have none. Thank you, that's very good. Move to acknowledgements. I would like to acknowledge, and I have quite a document here, the passing of James Darling AM. From part of his land was in our council area, as I understand, at the south end around what he would call Duck Island, but really due west of Keith. And I'm just going to read a couple parts and we'll incorporate some of this into the minutes. So James Darling was a leader in the arts, agriculture and environment for over 4 decades. James was a well-known identity in the upper southeast, fearless, curious and innovative in all areas of his life. Provided fantastic leadership and willingness to share his thinking in many areas, in particular his art practice and his visionary approach to sustainable agriculture and environmental management. He was awarded an AM, a Member of the Order of Australia, in the Queen's Birthday Honours List in 2007 for service to conservation and the environment, particularly through the development of sustainable land management practices and to the arts and to the community of Keith. So sad to hear of his passing. Number 3, declarations of conflict of interest. Councillors, do we have any? Councillor Peach?
I have 2, Mr Mayor. Declaration of conflict of interest on 10.3, community grant sponsorship and funding policy. I intend to stay in the room, but I won't be voting. And confidential item 15, and I may be wrong on this one, sorry, but confidential item 15.4, same applies.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? There being none, I'll move on. The confirmation of the item 4, confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting, including our confidential minutes, held on the 20th of August 2024. Someone prepared to move that way? Councillor Qualman is the mover. Or a seconder. Councillor Arthur, any questions around that? Being none, the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Item 5 is adjourned business. I have nil. Item 6. Reports by members. The Mayor's report. Councillors, you got any questions? Right. Councillor Coleman, yes, sorry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just 2, please. First one is August the 6th, media interview, re Little Corellas with Murray Valley Standard, please.
Probably the biggest threat to our council at the moment after the drought is Corellas, and I would be pursuing it actually further. That was a pretty sort of standard interview process from the standard. But I have discussed this with the CEO. I tend to elevate it and try and get some more action. It appears that not everyone, but every department thinks it's quite their problem at the moment.
We have followed up with the meeting that the Mayor and I had with PIRSA in March, a follow-up letter, because we haven't heard from them.
I know what to do.
So we're just awaiting that response.
Yeah, just noticing a lot of damage down Dixon's Reserve to the trees and so forth. The other one, Mr Mayor, is August the 16th presentation of project support signage, local roads and community infrastructure program. Thank you.
So, yeah. So as you know, we allocated funding through LRCI to 14 separate sport clubs across the district, and as they complete their projects, and I think in the report further in the agenda, you'll find I think half of them are now complete. So as we sort of get an opportunity, particularly with our federal member, we'll have a sort of official little photo opportunity, for want of a better word, that gets in the news and acknowledges the federal funding, because in local government we would very much like to have that same style of funding back, LRCIP or whatever it was in its day. So that was good, and it's allowed the Tailem Golf Club to get fully automated, fully automated watering system in, so it saves them a lot of labour. So that's good. And so that was what happened there.
Thank you.
Any other, Councillor Bland?
August the 1st, both of the meetings you had with Primary Industries, and then after that with the Honourable Susan Close. So if you could address both of those, please.
Yes. So the PIRSA-driven process around buybacks of River Murray water across the basin. I think, how am I going? And so they've got to put forward a bid for funding, business plan. So the first one was more with the officers of the department, and the second one was more with the Deputy Premier and the Minister. Around forming their business plan offer to the federal government around assistance. Well, I presume assistance, and that's been the column of smoke we can't quite grab yet.
Sorry, you've lost me.
Yeah, well, I've lost you quite deliberately because I'm not sure exactly what this process is asking for. I'm not going to do the CEO on this one.
Through you, Mayor, and I'm also looking at Tracy, who's been to several subsequent meetings on this. But basically, with the buyback program, the Commonwealth has allocated a certain amount of money, and the state has to put up a proposal based on data about where they think the impact will be across the river system in our district, in our state. And from that, they will decide on what programs or what support may be needed based on that water buyback, and also the data around each of those locations. It is early days, quite a complicated process, but it's almost like the process of getting ready to apply for future funding opportunities when the buybacks start to flow. And the process is quite convoluted. All of the councils along the Murray River are involved, as you would expect. The Riverland councils are probably the most in focus, if you like, because they are at the intersection of not only the buybacks of the water, but also the grape industry is diminishing because of the worldwide demand is decreasing, and the flooding. So they're very much in focus around what their needs may be post the water buybacks. And so this is the preliminary work that has to go through the state government. It has to go to the state government by Christmas, who will then put it to the federal government. And it's about the allocation of that funding that they've put forward.
So my question follow-up then would be, how are we going to ascertain that information within the council area?
So Tracy, through you, Mayor, Tracy and I had a meeting with the economists last week who are doing the data gathering and working out where the gaps are in the data, to that if it was missing, don't provide an informed picture. Again, the data around the Riverlands is very easily to ascertain in terms of dollar value. Our intention at that meeting with the two economists was to highlight that we have a unique position in terms of being at the end of the river. We don't have irrigated water systems for most of the farming here. It's dry land farming. So it's a very different scenario, and we wanted to make sure that they were cognizant of that environment as well, that the river system, and they knew this, but we just wanted to make sure it was on the record, that the river system in our state was different from that end to this end. What they are focusing on predominantly, but what is the impact on the community once the buybacks happen? And it's very difficult to pinpoint in a district such as ours what the impact might be from an economic point of view. So they put their economist hat back on, and they will go now and look at that from the angle of the difference in the Riverland to the difference at the mouths of the Coorong River.
Can I make a comment, Mr. Mayor? I think if they want to look at the impact, look post-drought on the Narung Peninsula, when a lot of the water was sold back, and a lot of it went to Broadacre. There's a small amount of irrigation and dairy out there now, but it definitely was a big difference to the impact socially in the community. I think most people would agree that live in the area.
One of the
And the loss
challenges
of
is
community and
the challenge is we
employment.
don't know who sold water, who leased water, who We just don't know.
Oh, we don't, but we know that a lot of it went to the, we also know the impact on the
Yes.
school and a whole lot of rollback that happened post-drought, and that wouldn't have just been here, that'd be other
No.
places as well.
So-
You weren't watering the system, but
Yep.
in this process.
We may be seen as the only council along with Alexandrina as a beneficiary of this whole process, so we will be treading carefully.
Yeah,
Well, and I just might build on this if I could. In the last few days, I suppose it's, as everyone knows that I'm a broadacre farmer, but I suppose we're not using the word drought, very dry season, councillor, is now very much in vogue, and we're just internally having some debate about how we'll raise that issue, because it appears there is no formal process anymore around drought. As most of us that have been in this business for a long time probably believe there shouldn't be, but in terms of the confidence of the community, I think it's important that we acknowledge that we're in a very, very, very dry period.
Oh.
And so we're just having some debate around the next few days. I probably may put out a press release around this subject. And I've been speaking to my state and federal members, of course, around what assistance, or at least acknowledgement by the greater community that we are in that, because it's a perceived and a national sense that all is going swimmingly in this country at the moment. And it's not. And I think it was prudent and very good of us to have the Unbreakable Farmer do four meetings and presentations across our district. And you see in my report, I got to the one at Peak. Councillors, the local government road and works conference at Harndorf, we got any more to add around that? It's a bit esoteric.
No, I thought it was.
Pull your mic down, councillor.
I did write back. I did write back on the comments.
Oh, you did? Very good.
Yes, because I believe that it's a great conference because you get to talk to other, council employees and workers and elected members on how they do things differently to what we do. They've got different conditions and all that sort of thing. But the tendency, and I made that, of the scope of that is more towards larger councils. And I think it's about time they did a local roads conference and looked at small little individual councils, how they handle things. Like I go back 2 years ago when we had a presentation from Charles Sturt Council on the maintaining unsealed roads. They had 60 Ks. And everyone said, what do you do after lunch? They had a grader to do that. So I think that's one of the things. And I was quite emphatic in what I put in the thing, but the rest was quite good.
So councillors, would this council be prepared to host that conference?
why not?
It's a lot of work.
Yes, why not?
The Bend.
The band.
Ben's here.
Yeah, they do have a fairly good organising committee now
Yeah, yeah.
because it's done within the
Yeah,
LGA.
have somewhere we can
whereas
do it.
before
Bend
it was
is-
done-
Just seek. Could consider it.
Yeah.
I just simply say that, and good on councillor Arthur's thing about everything but an unsealed road, we say. Thank you. Is councillor Qualman around that meeting?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I totally agree with Councillor Arthur, and it is big councils and little councils, and I think if we were to have it more local for us, it would be a good idea, and to show our wares and so forth, and I think they are important that we do have them every year and we attend, and like Councillor Arthur says, there's always something new to learn and how to maintain our assets, and I think the scary thing was the artificial intelligence section. Was got me going a bit. It's frightening. Thank you.
We're not long for this world, I don't think, councillors, yes. What I'd say.
Mm.
As in, I just might note there, I just attended the Talaman Hospital and gave a presentation of a volunteer pin to Bob Ellis. Very important to recognise that the efforts of our volunteers, and Bob had been part of the Tailem Bend Cemetery Committee since its inception. That was lovely.
I have a follow-up question on
Yeah.
that. Do we actually have, and somebody remind me, if we have a policy in relation to volunteers, whether it's they get a 5, 10, 15, 20, 25-year PIN? Because we certainly got a lot of people in that category.
Who you may, we tend to do it at the volunteer program every year, celebration, and generally, now correct me if I'm wrong, for the two staff at the back, we rely on the group itself to nominate the people that they think should have a PIN. And generally, it's about longevity.
Anything
Probably
else?
council should take lead in that.
There's nothing else in my report. Councillor Maidment, do you want to add anything?
No, thank you. That's pretty plain and simple, my report, isn't
That's
it?
fine. No one else got anything in matter of urgency? Okay. Move on to the next item, business and petitions, which there is nil. Number 8, deputations. I have nil. I'm making an assumption that public question time, we have nil. You never know, the staff might want to have something. Number 10.1, a decision report is Local Government Association Conference and Annual General Meeting. Councillors, just be aware that given the season and I would really like a proxy here, it is at that time of the year, which is quite busy. So just take that, why we'd like a proxy, please. Someone got who would like to be there, and the deputy mayor can be the proxy.
I'm out of vote now.
But you can be the council as a councillor, just to stroke by name. That's fine. I just make that clear that if we were to have a harvest, it's going to be a bit earlier. So, is there someone prepared to move a recommendation there, please?
Is the recommendation that it's councillor Arthur?
Up to you.
I'm happy to move that number 1, Paul Simmons or his proxy delegate, councillor Arthur. Attend.
And does any other councillors as part of this motion wish to attend that AGM? There will be some, I think we'll have by then some changes available for the Constitution. I think that's the principal thing I'm aware of. We have to nominate now, Ashley, or is that just an accommodation issue?
We're just doing it early so we can secure accommodation and bookings and things, but we could potentially bring it back at next meeting if there's any interest.
A number
Bring
two.
it back at the next
Bring it
meeting
back.
from my point of view and accommodations.
No. So item 1 only.
Yep.
Is there a mover?
I'm happy to move that way.
You, councillor Roundtree is the mover. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bland, I'm taking. Any further discussion around that? There being nothing, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 2,
I will not need accommodation.
might. Yep.
Thank you.
Number 2, Pangarinda Botanic Garden Future Vision Plan. Are we at the point where someone wishes to move that recommendation?
Through you, Mayor, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Just with the extra $10,000, what is it that's going to achieve? Like what priority action?
What prior?
So it says an additional operating budget for the 24-25 financial year be allocated to implement key priority actions. As in which key priority actions? Because they all look more than $10,000.
So, yeah, I've got a response for you. Yes, the money would be primarily spent on external contracts to assist reduce fire fuel load.
Sorry, say again.
Fire fuel load would be approximately $6,000 of that 10, and maintenance of mowers and other small machinery, perhaps $1,000, and if possible, a purchase of a Hortis plant database management software. $3,000. That would be the approximate potential for splitting up of that. It'd also be fair to say that we must be spending some time there with our staff now, which needless to say might come across from that to a degree.
What page did you read that on in the?
But as a
Oh, it's
response from an
not.
officer,
Okay.
so that's where that comes from.
So it's an external contractor to manage get rid of some of the fuel load that's there to get some software, did you say?
Get some software. That's the 2 principal things. Yes.
And does the software form part of the plan, the guidelines that the report talks about? Is that part of that? Is it mentioned in there?
The software will be probably the first toe in the water to start the curation and understand what the plants are. And it'll be the repository and the database where we will use over coming years to know what's in it's quite a common thing to use.
Okay.
We don't have any record in any form apart from, I think, the volunteers head at the moment.
Haven't they written that all out? What's all there?
Yes, but that will change quite quickly as the park grows.
But we have a starting point.
We have a starting point, yes.
Just, Mr Mayor,
Hang on, councillor.
Mr Mayor, in terms of the fuel load reduction, are the volunteers going to be consulted before that occurs and actively engaged in that process?
It'll be an extension of what we do now, and they've been involved in that to date. And our compliance officer is involved in that. So this won't be new to them.
Councillor Arthur.
Mr Mayor, why would we be getting contractors to do that? To reduce the field load? Surely that would be part of it. We look after it pretty well now.
Could be a combination. It could be a budget allocation within.
Well, you know, like it's a fair allocation, 10 grand to start with, isn't it?
Maybe Travis, you want to
Every
add?
year, that's a
Acting director.
Okay. Decline in quite significantly and to maintain grounds with just compact staff. Well, so need to substitute volunteer hours with contract hours.
Well, I'm saying that instead of putting substituting with contract hours, we concentrate it with our workforce. And I talked to some of our blokes, they said they would like to get some jobs instead of go to meetings. So, you know, are they fully employed? I'd say they were, but there's probably not going to be as much mowing around this year as it has been for the last few years because there's no spring and, you know, the grass is not growing. And that's one of their major contracts, isn't it? So, you know, why would we have to get contractors to do that job? It's only 25 acres.
Well, if we do, we will. If we don't, we won't. I mean, it's just an allocation in BR1. Doesn't mean it has to be spent.
Have you ever seen a government department doesn't spend?
We ask. Yep. This year, our mowing will be substantially reduced, I would say. Councillor Roundtree.
As this is one of 2 regional botanic gardens in SA, has the council approached state government, and I'm going to assume you have, about getting any assistance with covering some of this cost?
The team who work with the volunteers are continually talking with the state around possible grants, what's available. And I'm also aware, and Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong, but some volunteers also come in from across the state from time to time. And she's shaking, she's nodding.
She's nodding. Okay.
Not shaking, she's not.
Nodding.
Have I got a, Councillor Brown, you a question or a mover?
I do. What is the current budget that we need to extend by $10,000? And should this be a component of a budget that for the future? Is that what we're eventually looking at?
Correct. So through you, Mayor, we have a very small budget in Travis's now that works in tandem with the volunteers, and Sam takes the lion's share of that work as well. We know, as Travis mentioned, that the volunteers are getting less and less in terms of their capacity. So the council budget will commensurately have to go up if we want to maintain the same level of service. If we want to have a greater level of service, then that change will be even greater.
So follow-up question on that. So post this $10,000, are we looking then for a briefing about what the future might look like in terms of this, or are we at that stage yet?
Through you, Mayor, once the this vision document is adopted, we will then go back. The 10,000 was really to look at what is the immediate needs that have been highlighted. After that, the vision document, a bit like any other plan like this, will be then structured into stages, and the consultant has already done some of that work, albeit 12 months ago now. Some of the priorities might have changed, but it will start to be structured as a staged approach for the Pangarinda Gardens. And each year in the budget, we will present that as part of your discussion and consideration about, do you want it included in the budget? How much? What do you want to do with it for that particular year? Apart from the maintenance, which will be also, will start to increase.
So it will also form a part of the strategic planning process and strategic projects.
Correct.
I'm at the point of looking for a mover. Councillor Bland, you moving? Both parts of the recommendation? You're a seconder? Councillor Cromwell, I think I saw you. Councillor Bland, you want to speak to it now?
No, I'm happy with it because the future vision plan still requires funding, still has to come back to council through the strategic projects or whatever process. I assume strategic projects that then we will or will not be able to afford it unless there's, and we'll have to look at the key components, break it down,
Certainly.
whatever we need to do.
Councillor Corman?
Thank you, Mr. Baird. Just a comment that this former highlights the importance of our volunteers. And on page 33 of the attachment, human resources, it mentions about various options of encouraging volunteers and the alternatives of involving more council staff. So I found that quite interesting because I think that's where we're at the moment. And I think if to take the heat off our new developing budget line, like everything, we've got to try and get some more volunteers because age is wearing them and they do a great job, but we need to find some more volunteers to maintain this very valuable.
Anyone else wish to enter the debate?
Mr. Mayor, I just, within the plan itself, it's got to say paid staff support for the garden.
Already
It's a pretty
has.
open sort of statement. Are we going to have, gatekeepers or is it maintenance guys? I'd just like a little bit of more information on that, please.
To you, Mayor, goes back to the point, councillor, that as the volunteers diminish and depending on what the vision of the chamber is in terms of Pangarinda Gardens over the next 20 years, which the consultant has painted a picture of what it might be, those things don't run by themselves. So there will be a point, whether it's next year or 5 years' time, where there will be a conversation in a budget process to say there needs to be more dedicated staff to look after the Botanic Gardens, which is generally how Botanic Gardens are run.
Yeah. The other point, and I think it's a key point in there, is revenue opportunities. What do you see the revenue opportunities?
Do you, Mayor?
Except for, like philanthropists giving to it or government grants or something like that. What's your revenue opportunities?
So there are a couple of national tourism bodies who go to Botanic Gardens as a matter of course as part of a tour. They come into this district, but they don't go to Pangarinda Gardens as yet. That's one opportunity where we could talk with the providers, and I know that some staff have started to chase up that conversation. Now, whether they're interested or not, it remains to be seen. But there are tourist packages that actually incorporate visits to gardens, whether it's across the state, across nationally or internationally. And Pangarinda Gardens would be up there as a fairly unique offering. It will take some time. It's probably not visitor ready to that level of tourist operator, but there are opportunities into the future, a bit like the Port Augusta Arid Gardens.
Through the chair, I might just mention, and I worked with Barossa Council, and of course Barossa Council's got the Barossa Bush Gardens, which started off basically the same as Pangarinda, and effectively now is a small business, and part of the business is a nursery. They've established quite a healthy nursery, and they sell plants, natives, and importantly, they sell natives that are the appropriate plants to plant in the Barossa, and Pangarinda's got that same potential as well.
Anyone else?
Closed.
We'll close Councillor Bland. So the debate's closed. The motion is as it reads in the recommendation. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 3, I'd hope. It's just for noting, councillors, this recommendation around community grants, sponsorships and funding, as we've decided. Someone prepared to move that recommendation, councillors? Councillor Roundtree. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Hara, thank you. Is there any discussion?
I think it falls within our budget, so it's all good.
Yes, at this stage it falls easily in the budget. There's no debate. There appears to be none. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against?
Conflict of interest, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, yes.
Not trying to be difficult.
That's carried, and that's an interesting thing, and that one unanimously. Ashley, how does that work? Unanimously amongst the voters.
We'll just note.
Thank you. Sorry, councillor, for giving you the stare. Number 4, certification of 23-24 financial statements. This is not that we are signing it today. This is authorises to sign it. Councillor Roundtree, moving. Your seconder. Councillor Bland, is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr Mayor, we'll be being difficult on this one and voting against it in principle. I think it's ridiculous that we do this before we actually get the documents, as I said last year.
Yes, you did. Yeah. Anyone else? Put the motion then. All those in favour?
Where I've said the same thing for every year.
No, well, I'm putting the motion, so you got to be quick. All those in favour? All but councillor Peach on principle are not voting against it. Not voting for it. The other 6 councillors voted against it. Still carried, councillor. Understand your position. Number 5, surplus land disposal program.
Fourth quarter review.
Quarterly business plan review.
Yeah, why did I just jump that one? Just trying to, we'll go to number 5. Yeah, I read it twice. Yes, right. 23-24, annual business plan, 4th quarter review. Is there anyone prepared to move the recommendation? Councillor Roundtree again. There's a seconder. Councillor Maidment, thank you. I will open it briefly for questions. Councillor Qualmans, your question?
Yes, it is, Mr Mayor. Page 27 on the hard copy and page 28 on hard copy under infrastructure. Undertake stormwater drainage revaluations and also develop and building community facility assets management plans. There seems to be a bit of a delay, and these points were pointed out by the auditor recently and was in the discussion at the audit meeting. How are we going with that? Would that be prepared to make up for next year's budget? Please.
Through you, Mayor. We gave you a program that was in the audit committee of the different asset management plans that would happen. This one is earmarked now for 25-26. And the auditors, as in the audit and risk committee, were quite happy with that.
Okay. Thank you.
In questions? You want them?
Yes, Mr Mayor, on page 84 of the online copy, the AI copy, whatever you call it. We've got in here, hang on, I've just lost it again. Got to find the page first, 84. Probably 85. It's regarding the consideration of future proofing of drought impacts. And it's got in here, identify, secure and continuous where possible funding for drought resilience activities. On track. What's on track, mate? For this particular item.
This is to identify, and there was some conversation around the strategic projects about water projects that could be viable for drought resilience. And so when the Commonwealth in particular allocates some grant funding to this particular issue, we go and look to see whether there's something that would benefit this council through that grant process from a building resilience in a drought environment.
So this is.
So it could be a variety, sorry, councillor, it could be a variety of projects. It was just a flag that we need to continue to look at drought proofing the district. What does that look like? It could depend on what the grant is available for.
So this works in with the drought hub that are, you know, like you've got the drought hub in the mid-north and a drought hub here, that's a work separate from that.
Generally, the relationship might be with the Drought Hub and we may get some advice from them, but the grant itself is generally through PIRSA most times. It's been a couple of occasions where it's been another state government department back to the Commonwealth. And it could be for just water facilities. There's a few things we've asked about the water grid. We've also looked at some funding under the for Wellington East and seeing if we could tuck it under there. So from time to time, there are grants around water that we will look at to see if they are suitable for this district in terms of building resilience.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, we revert to the debate. So it was moved by councillor Roundtree, seconded councillor Maidment. Council adopts the annual business plan, fourth quarter review, 23-24. Is anyone to say anything else? That being the case, I'm going to put the motion. Thank you, councillors. All put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 6. We better write this down. Surplus land disposal program. Councillors, there is a recommendation that we receive and note the report and endorse establishment of a surplus land reserve fund to quarantine a portion of funds realised from land sales to be determined by council for the purpose of supporting further land disposal, development related structure planning and infrastructure development associated with district-wide strategic growth. Councillor Peach, though, has got his hand up.
So moving.
Moving it as it reads.
As it reads. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You. There a second to councillor Bland. You want to speak, councillor Peach?
Look, I think this is a sensible idea. I note that we're not actually specifying the amount at the moment, but the idea of quarantining some money from those sorts of sales to promote future growth, which means future income, is something I support. So that's why I'm going to be moving the motion.
The Bland?
And I'm in support of having that fund in the future. I think that's.
Councillor Roundtree?
Just a question. Sorry.
Yep.
Just a question. I know in the past, and I think Councillor Arthur raised it, a similar concept for plant and equipment. And we have always been told that we can't separate that out and hold that in a reserve fund. What's changed to allow this to happen?
Through the chair. So with the plant, you have a plant and fleet asset management plan, and that dictates the sale and purchase of plant. So you don't actually need a reserve fund. In this particular case, with this proposal, we would next go to the November Audit and Risk Committee to get their acceptance of this as well. You're effectively working to the Coorong growth strategy and other strategic documents for future strategic purchases, which is quite different. You don't know exactly what they are. There's no document that can predict the future. Whereas, and that's the difference with an asset between that and an asset management plan for plant and fleet. So it's reasonable to say, let's put aside some money for an opportunity that may arise in the future.
Thank you.
Councillor Arthur?
Yes, a great idea. It's been one that should have been in for a long time, because previously when we sold land at Wellington East, all those places just went into general revenue, never really showed any right. So at least we know here that you've got a fund, and sometimes, you know, you might have to subdivide a block to pay it. So hopefully this will be the backbone to finance it.
Your Worship, just the concept I had was that I deliberately left the decision about how much money to put aside into the reserve for the time that the sale of the land is presented to council. So council can make that decision. We don't know whether the land's going to be worth, it might be $120,000, it might be $1 million. So at that point in time, the idea is council makes a decision about what percentage of the envisaged return on sale would be, and also then can actually then allocate that to a purpose, like buying another strategic parcel of land or developing land for further sale.
Councillor Maidman.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, I have one little concern with this. I'm quite happy to vote for it. When you say district-wide strategic growth, it worries me that we could sell a parcel of land at one place and it goes to another place. I would probably like to see commitment to priority to the place of where it was actually, the land was sold, where the proceeds of, because all of our areas, all our towns are all going to have some strategic growth at some point. That's the ideal we keep getting told about, and it just leaves it a little bit open for me. I mean, I'm happy to go. I don't want to change the motion, but I'm asking for advice about whether we should.
I think it's a consideration that council will have when you have that opportunity. Let's imagine, okay, you've sold a parcel of land in Tarleton Bend and you've generated. You've got a pleasant decision as to decide what do you do with $500,000. You would refer then to that Coorong growth strategy, which remember will be a live document that is updated by, and importantly reflects your potential return on investment. It doesn't favour any particular area of town of the district, but it does say the demand is more buoyant in this location, and if you spend in this location, you're going to get more return and a quicker return. Ultimately, it will be a decision of council, but guided by that document. And we already have within that document priorities and actions. I will say as well, there may be some things that arise that we don't know about. It might be a parcel of land that comes up for sale that we didn't expect to come up for sale, or maybe offered to council by a state government authority or another government authority at a market price. And again, then you can ask the question, is that a strategic piece of land? And at least then you that you can call upon and make that purchase in a timely manner without having a budget impact. That's the type of thinking. I'm borrowing this from Port Pirie. They've done it very well. They had a reasonable amount of council land that they were able to put on the market and sell, and then be able to spend in their town, importantly in Port Pirie itself, to develop new estates, and importantly pay for expensive things like stormwater, swims, etc. Without having an impact on budget, without having an impact on your long-term planning.
That kind of goes to my point of
And that's why I've left this somewhat open for the time when we are selling land and generating those funds for council to have that. Let's say, imagine to be a workshop, discussion, thorough discussion, and then a presentation to council and a decision to council.
Councillor, I'd read the words in it for the purpose of supporting further land, but the Land Reserve Fund to quarantine a portion. Get the council on the day that it would allocate, may put that condition or rider in it.
Yeah, but you've got with district-wide strategic growth, it's not specific for the sale of land stays in the one area. Okay.
And sorry, also, in the council's policy for the disposal of land, and also council's treasury policy, it does have some restrictions on how you can use funds from disposal of land. Remember we had the tennis court, and there was conversation about, you know, the desire to use those funds for sporting facilities. And in fact, our own treasury policy and our disposal policy doesn't allow us to do.
Well,
Yes, and we have a third. And we use the growth strategy.
So further to that, sorry, I'm taking everybody else's time up here. You mentioned 10th Street or Tennis Court. We sold that hypothetically. Could you then, given the wording on this, use that money for infrastructure at Bolton Place if that goes ahead, or when that goes ahead? Now that's public knowledge.
We considered that at the time.
So that wouldn't affect it. This, the way this is worded.
Well, what I'm saying here clearly is that if the expenditure in that reserve would be associated. So that's why I put the word infrastructure in there as well.
Okay, thank you.
So Bland,
Just for clarification, while we've got this motherhood statement, which I'm in agreement with, sorry, a broad statement, I'm not allowed to say motherhood, okay. Broad statement then, and we have our growth strategy, and I get that. Seems to me that what we need is some criteria around that, around this now, so that we're all very clear about what it can and can't be used for from Treasury, et cetera, et cetera. So sort of feel like there's a bit of a grey space still that we need a bit more.
It could well be. There's a little bit more with the Port Pirie example, there's a little bit more policy
Okay,
guidance. The other thing that will be happening is that you won't just have the growth strategy, but importantly, you'll have the structure plans that will be developed. So Tail and Bend likely to be next year. So that's a deeper dive than the growth strategy, and that will probably come up with the I suppose the finer detail in terms of opportunities to spend money from the reserve.
Councillor Bland, I'm just going to get you to pull your mic down a fraction.
so we can documents to match all of that as we go through now.
I just really wanted to get this on the table, get council support for a reserve. I don't intend to establish the reserve until we're close to selling some land. But I do intend to get the audit and risk committee's support for this as well. And we'll develop the more detailed documentation, policy, guidance over the next, say, 6 months.
Okay, thank you. I'm good.
Everyone's spoken. There's no more. Councillor Peach, you'll close.
So closed.
Closed. So the motion is as it reads in the recommendation, councillors. All those in favour? Those against, that one's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Number 7. Number 7, Roads and Infrastructure Committee meeting of the meeting held on the 3rd of September at Peak. Someone move that way, please. Councillor Peach is the mover. The seconder. Councillor Maidment, thank you. Is there any discussion around them? There's none. You'll close.
Closed.
Put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Number 11.1, Office of the Chief Executive Officer's Information Report. Questions? Councillor Roundtree.
Thank you. Number 7, which is meetings attended by the CEO, I have 3. August the 2nd, meeting with the Department of Education regarding the Meningie Community Library.
To you, Mayor, that is the meeting that I referred to last meeting.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
August the 5th, the Teams meeting with the District Council of Kimber, same thing, is that the same one?
Kimber?
Yeah.
I haven't found the page to talk. Through you, Mayor. No, that was to talk about their childcare model.
Is it a good model?
They have a childcare, but they've used consultants in various ways, and we wanted to understand what they did. They also worked with their RDA and with other councils, as they do sometimes on those peninsulas, and we just wanted to understand where that's at. And we are going to bring a briefing to council, probably before Christmas, about the findings and what might be a possible solution to the childcare issue across this district.
Just further to that, one of the suggestions that was put forward to me was using the Canalpin Primary School because it's already set up for children and fencing and has been approved by the department as an opportunity for a childcare facility. Is that something that can be explored further?
That's what you mean. I think the conversation is probably at a slightly higher level first about what sort of childcare facilities, because there are family daycare, there's community,
Okay.
there's a whole range of those options, and then about what level of involvement does council want in it, from not being involved at all and just facilitating the process through to running it. And so all those things I think need to be explored before you actually identify a actual venue. But you're right. The other thing, the schools where the year sevens have vacated, which is in Taylor and Bent here as well, have also left some space.
And my last one was the 19th of August, the meeting with the Health View Consulting Country SA Primary Healthcare Assessment Needs.
63 in a
Thank
paper.
you. Sorry, councillor, what
That's right.
time? Which date?
19th of August.
19.
So the PHNs are a commissioning body who work for the Commonwealth to look at needs across the Australia. We had never spoken with the PHN, and they wrote to us to say that they were looking at mental health issues and homelessness, I think, as their two priorities. And so that was really just a preliminary meeting, me introducing myself and suggesting that if they wanted to work in this district at all on particular issues, we'd be more than open to that discussion.
Is it likely? They've been here before in some form.
It depends on how much money they've got to commission, what the needs are, and it's very much a data-driven exercise. I just wanted to make sure that they knew who we were.
Okay. Move.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple through you, just a couple of points from the report. One is the 2 acquittals that have been received, one of which was extremely outstanding. Just noting that for other councillors. And one of the ones that's still outstanding, which is the Friends of the Tintinara CWA building. I did speak to them in the last fortnight, and I believe they've applied for another extension.
That could possibly be the
to
case.
that, and they have got the pickets and painted them, but they're not erected yet. So that's
you.
still where that's at.
I just have one more question. Sorry, I thought I only had 3, but I actually had 4. That report, with the question that was taken on notice, and it was around the incident marked as aggressive and which turns out to be a muscle strain. There are actually 2 incidences of aggressive injury. I'm just wondering, was they both muscle strain? So this is in response to the questions that were taken on notice at the 20th of August.
Who you may, I'd have to
Don't
take
know.
that notes again. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I reviewed that and it appeared that those 2 incidences were actual the muscle strains and not the aggressive. I think the lines were right next to each other.
Oh, so it was in the right
There's no
category?
aggressive.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Makes more sense.
Councillor Arthur.
You know, I just, a question about the income and expenditure summary for the 31st of August. I'm not worried about the 31st of August. I'm worried about the adopted budget for 23-24. 870.
Age we got in our.
Right at the beginning.
It's
Right at the
on
beginning,
page
right.
99 of the electronic.
Yep.
The adopted budget was a deficit of $873,000. The unaudited figures according to this is 2.359 232,000, $2.3 million deficit. Now, out of the 23-24 budget, we've also taken $1.8 million of works out. So, you know, where do the figures work out here? So if we'd have done that work, there would have been another 1.8, so it would have been $4 million deficit.
That's through you, Mayor. The 800 is with all the things that you said had happened. So that was the end of, that was the
That was the
prediction?
budget figure,
Correct.
right?
Remembering that the financial assistance grants weren't paid as they normally were in last financial year, so we couldn't account for them. So they were accounted for in the 24-25 budget. And you'll see from July and August that immediately changes because that cash amount comes into the books.
Yeah, but we've also deferred $1.8 million worth of work.
So that's capital council.
Yeah, but it's still expenditure. Doesn't matter if it's capital or,
One of the important things to remember, councillor, is we deferred some of that, which was special local roads. And correct me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong, we do not receive the money
Until we do it.
until we do it. So that figure is quite largely inflated by a 2-for-1 allocation for.
but we haven't done the work. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but the budget would show that we were going to, and therefore we don't receive the money if we don't do the job. In the Karkuma Road deferment of stage 2A, it is not as it seems.
Cash amount would be.
Cash amount would be different, that's right. And I share your frustration around the federal grant coming in on the 1st of, and the federal government's communications with us, and we've only received some today, I believe, confirming our grants for this year, that they are effectively saying the state didn't get the money to us in time. In a strange way, but putting the money in the correct year in the future may simplify our debates in this chamber. I'm pleased to actually, could I inform council around that, since we're in your CEO's report, that so the grant's been confirmed, the adjustment looks like it's slightly in the positive. There's always an adjustment at the end of the year. And our 3 projects that we've applied for special local roads funding have all been endorsed and approved, the way I read that press release. So that is for Alexandrina Drive at Narung, for I think nearly half of the distance of Caldy Road reseal, and for stage technically 2B of Karkuma Road. So we've done very well through that particular process. Councillor Peach.
Questions with notice. I just note that I haven't been provided with that information yet, so that would be good to receive.
One was
Questions with notice that were taken during the meeting.
I would do that. We had a chat with people from Relcan the other day about that issue, and I will send that out at a session. Thank you.
Other questions in the CEO's information report? There being no more, I'd like someone to move and second up. Councillor Qualman, is there any further debate around? Not debate, whatever. There's none. I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried unanimously. Number 2, 11.2 is corporate and community information report. Questions quickly?
Just quickly.
Councillor Bland.
For the number there, but the hours that were put against Meningie Information Hub, 25.1 something. Can't remember where it is now. Perhaps it's just an error in typing, I hope. What page you on? You're going to ask me that. I've just flipped over it.
In the CEO's report, we're now into
CNC.
corporate and community.
Volunteer management.
I'll be in the previous agenda item, councillor.
Sorry.
The issue is you don't feel it's accurate.
Well, I don't feel it's accurate. 25.1
Well,
something.
follow that up.
Sorry about that. Apologies.
All right. Other questions in relation to this report, councillors? Congratulations, Kim, on being appointed formally. There's no other questions. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillors Peach and Roundtree. No further debate. I put the motion. All those in favour? Against, that's carried unanimously. Number 3, Roads and Infrastructure Information Report. Questions? Councillor Qualman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a irrigation Question on page 86, there were irrigation main repaired in Tarlin. I believe that was the one opposite the post office there somewhere on those little islands. Someone update me how we're getting along with improving the greenness, I'd call it, of the lawn area along those sections, because from the old station master's house down to where the old toilets were, some of the land there is very arid, and I know we've been experiencing problems at Rogers Park, but I've been informed by our acting director of roads and infrastructure that's been attended to. But are we doing something about these other poor irrigated areas along Railway Terrace, please?
Travis, is that area under the recycled water area or not? That's been one of the issues there or not?
Pretty sure, yes, it is. There may be consideration with that area with the car park upgrade.
Soon, car park, yep.
Okay,
Hopefully it'll be dealt with in that process, councillor.
thank you.
Questions, councillors? Questions around this report? There is no more questions. Can someone move, please? Councillors Coleman is the mover and Councillor O'Hara, thank you. There's no further discussion. Put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? You,
Sorry, I was late.
you're in favour, councillor? That's carried unanimously. Number 12 questions. Notice I have nil questions without notice. Councillors, Councillor Bree.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. What would stop us from allowing people to submit questions to council in writing and have them recorded and read out in public question time as part of that process? Is there anything that would stop us doing that?
Say that slowly to me again.
So if there are people out there who can't get to the meeting but would like to put a question forward, what would stop us allowing them to submit to council, to the administration, their question to be reviewed and then added to our public question time session, which then could have a answer. So if they were watching online, their question would be read out and then an answer given. But you would have the question ahead of time to make sure that you're prepared to answer it.
Public question time, the council. To the council.
To the council.
Not to administration.
So public question time is correct. Is the question is to us as council, elected members. So, gonna work. What I'd be wary of, councillor, is it would leave the presiding member in an awkward position of declining questions. Think about it in reverse. People from anywhere might just start asking questions that might have nothing to do with this council, and I can then dismiss them as nefarious and this and that. Your whole reporting mechanism come around that. I know it's a discipline to come at the moment to do that. At any stage, any ratepayer or resident can ask a question of the organisation internally. That's not really impossible. I'd also say that we do council in the community 4 times a year, and that's a very open forum. And we've got notes on what happens in that, so we do know roughly what questions and comments were made.
What stops us doing it?
I don't know. I'd have to have a discussion with the governance officer around the governance process in terms of it would be it could be a way of people getting things into the minutes.
Well, I think at the moment we have the book, and so people have to submit their questions through the book, or how are they doing it with the?
If they appear, I like to see that beforehand.
Yeah, so you're sort of doing that anyway. But it would probably give us longer to have a look at it. I mean, they can still come to us and we can give them to you. But I think the point was made to me that it would be useful for people who do watch online to have their question submitted. And I guess if it's coming to us or coming to you, you'd probably know the person anyway. And if we really had no idea.
Whether I know it or not doesn't matter.
Well, if you're looking at whether they're up to something nefarious or not, we could possibly sort that out with a quick rate check or something.
My challenge, a genuine question from people within this area or involved in this area, or is it something else on another agenda?
No, I don't have any other agenda. It's just that
No,
I feel like
it's-
it would be a
It's
useful
not whether
thing to
you,
do.
not whether you do, it's whether the questioner then sees it as a Trojan horse.
I think we could possibly work through that, looking at the question. You'd probably be able to determine whether it was a relevant one or not. And I wouldn't suggest that every question should. I just wondered, I guess what I'm asking is, could we explore whether it's even possible?
Well, I can.
And take it on notice, but just whether it's even something we should look at and maybe report back to us at, pros and cons.
We can take it on. The reality, I understand, because we haven't had many members of the public come here, but it does get into this whole area of, I suppose, remote meeting now, which people aren't here, but still ask questions. It's moving the goalposts for me as a presiding member around. Do we respond to people who send in things electronically? We can do that internally as an administrative issue. There's a formal council meeting. I'll have to give it more thought. Councillor Bland.
Just following up on that, Mr Mayor, I'm not totally in disagreement with councillor Roundtree on this one. And sometimes it may be simple, and it may also be something that council has already answered to another ratepayer or visitor to the area that everybody would like to know. So there's two ways around it, is that if there is questions coming in to whichever department that may be relevant across the area, by just putting that up as a question and answer on the website, or looking at another way, because sometimes we're addressing the same things. And I don't know if we're crossing over in council with staff or not as councillors, or maybe it's something we don't know about that the staff have advised the community. It would be good to know that as well as a councillor. So I guess from, there does seem to be some gaps. So whatever way is best of addressing it.
We'll give it some thought. I'm in questions without notice, councillors. Got no more, I've got.
So you,
Councillor Arthur.
Travis is acting. Weed spraying.
Hey,
Bitumen, I
Hey.
said through you, sir.
always to me.
All to you. Weed spraying regarding bitumen roads. As soon as it rains, if it rains, are we ready to go out and hit the coup scratch very hard?
Very hard.
We can take that on notice, councillor, because I think you're.
Oh, I think we do need an answer that, because it's contractors we've been using. Are the contractors ready to go? As we know, it's very crucial you hit Cooch at the right time.
Travis, you want to have a go?
Short answer, yes. We've got budget allocation for weed spraying, and we've been in communication with contractors. They obviously do work in other areas. So we're working in cohesion with the neighbouring. So it's a big area to hit all at once. If you said, like you say, if it rains, like in one hit, we work strategically.
I'm more pleased, councillor, you think it's going to rain.
Yeah, it's going to rain, Rob. I don't know how much,
At the
it's
end of
going
the
to
dry
rain.
period, yes, I know.
My arthritis says so.
Shoulder's killing me.
No further questions without notice. Moving on.
Oh, sorry, I just have one other. For you, Mr. Mayor. I had a telephone call from a ratepayer last week who's been in touch with the council 4 times regarding a online and asked for a reply regarding a problem in his street, and he's never ever had a reply as yet. Could we
can deal with
find
it.
out what's going on with that,
We
please?
can deal with it, but CEO alerted this
I
one.
don't want to name names.
No,
but
no,
I'll
absolutely.
give
That's why I'm asking you whether she's a book.
So if you could give me the information out of session, I'll follow it up.
Yep, thank you.
I think that follows up with.
Number 13.1. This is a rescission motion, councillors. Councillor Roundtree, you're going to move
I'm just
that.
going to amend it first, Mayor, and take out number 1. So removing point 1 and just sticking with the second part only. And that way it doesn't throw us back to having 5 o'clock meetings for the next month. It allows the existing motion to stand and just changing it from November onwards.
Okay. On. Decision, you can do that.
So it becomes a motion to amend 5902.
Yes, as long as it doesn't create a situation where we go back to a 5 o'clock meeting for next month. We want to stay 3 o'clock until November and then go to 10 o'clock. That's what I want to put forward.
Suggested wording.
Yep, I think that.
Excellent. Then I'll move that way.
We'll move that way. Councillor Odds, I just as a matter of procedure, and you'll note that the last paragraph on that page says that if this motion is lost, it cannot be brought back
I did,
for
Mr. Mayor,
12 months.
if we're raising that, I did have an issue with that because we've already had a ruling in the last 12 months when we had a special meeting called, a similar circumstance after a motion was lost. And I think that statement, goose is good for the gander. So I did have a problem with that.
Ashley,
Through the mayor, I believe it's regulation 12.4 or 3. It only applies to motions to revoke, which is what this is. So in the circumstance of that special meeting, there was no revocation.
I think that's right. Councillor Roundtree's moved. I probably need to second it first and foremost in this, and then I'm happy to open it up. Councillor Cormann, you're going to
Second it, thank you.
second it, righto. I'm going to move to Councillor Roundtree if she wishes to speak to her motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I've put most of what I wanted to say into the background. I think Councillor Arthur made a good point when we were discussing this last time that we are a lot sharper in the morning, and I think it would be useful to have these meetings earlier in the day. I think there's also opportunity. We may even see more people come to the chamber at 10 o'clock that live locally that aren't working, that might want to come in. And we haven't tried it before, and I think it's actually going to be quite useful if it gets up.
Councillor Cormann, you're the seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I concur with Councillor Roundtree that freshness is a thing. Early in the day, the better. And also have concerns for other elected members who have to maybe unfortunately travel at night time on the previous arrangements. So that's why I'm supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, it's open for debate, councillors.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Rahara.
Can I ask for the CEO's opinion on how, I mean, originally I thought this is a good idea, but I'd like to know the effect it's going to have on the staff, if any.
Through you, Mayor, it would be our preference in a sense, because it's easier to have staff here. After hours is much more difficult. 3 o'clock works okay as well for us, but while staff are here and the public area is open and there's a public meeting on here, that generally works okay. It does probably make it a little tighter. The activity that we undertake on a Tuesday morning, making sure we're ready for the meeting, but by and large, we're ready by Monday afternoon anyway. Yeah.
Just the next, Mayor and I discussed was arranging workshops. If we had external presenters, there would be some intricacies if we started the meeting at 10 and we didn't know when we were finishing. So you'd either have to just organise internal workshops on that day or potentially have another workshop day.
So the challenge, councillors, is that we don't know exactly when the meeting's going to finish. We do know when it's going to start, but when it's finish. So in terms of scheduling someone, particularly externally, we wouldn't probably want to, if it was at 10 o'clock, we really wouldn't want to be before 2, I wouldn't think.
So we would look, Mayor, at having just internal workshops on the day, a bit like today, we were flexible when the external, so one day of the month would be the internal workshops and the other day would be the external, which is much easier to schedule.
And that is, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is the first Tuesday of the month you're talking about is for that, which is what the workshop, which is why that was set up for workshops originally. I know they slip sometimes, but it was never meant to be pre-council, so we had to have time to gel before we got motions. Or
Well, they cannot bring a decision from a workshop, so.
No.
I know, but for councillors to have time between,
Really consider.
that's why it was set up first and the third, so that they had time, and if there was a special meeting to be held for a, something that needed to be done very quickly, then that was brought into play as well.
That was originally what the first Tuesday of the month was brought in, was all workshops. And the third Tuesday was meetings, and there was no workshops before. Before we would come to a lot of meetings without a workshop and expected to make decisions. So that's why that was brought in some,
Just to stop that.
8 years ago, I reckon, 9 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Just so we're really clear, you cannot make a decision out of a.
we know that. That's, I think
I think that's the
we've
question.
been through our teaching.
Okay, I'm still I'm on debate. That was a question. You know, we're wishing end of the debate. Very simple then. You're closed, councillor.
Closed.
So it's no longer a revocation motion, is it?
Amendment.
Essentially say it's an amendment.
So do you have to change this up here? Amendment of motion.
If it's an amendment, we need to put the amendment first, don't we?
No, it's a bit different in this case. Again, referring to regulation 12.3, a motion to the effect of which, if carried, would be to revoke or amend a resolution must be brought by written notice. So that's basically.
Amend would be easier.
So I'm taking this as just, it's not a, yeah. Take it as it is.
Yeah, I think we can.
So everyone's aware that moved, and so it would be commencing in November 2024. The ordinary meetings of Coorong Council would be held here at Tailem Bend, beginning at 10 a.m. for the remainder of the current term, councillor. That's the last 2 years at this stage. Putting the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Unanimously. Thank you. Earlier, well, come yesterday. Where are we? Motions without notice, sorry. Councillor Roundtree.
Thank you, Mayor. After having sat through Carnarvon Progress Association meetings and other meetings, I would like to actually move that the council reinstate the Carnarvon Hall Committee as a Section 41 committee as soon as possible. This has sat on the books for over 17 months with the promise of having workshops, and we've had one. I think the group never wanted to disband. They were very much encouraged to. They were told that they weren't following protocol. They didn't actually understand what the requirements were. And I think given the fact that this hall is still used, still loved, you've still got a great group of volunteers down there who want to take this on and who are sort of doing this work in a ad hoc fashion. They're bringing some of their issues to progress, which isn't really fitting with the progress agenda. That I think there is a need to have this with some guidance from council about how it could work and what they can do to make life easier for everyone else as well. I've spoken to a few people about this and it's very welcomed, and they'd like the opportunity to have themselves reinstated as a Section 41. So yes, I'd like to move that way. That
Your exact words will be. Yep, Ashley, please.
With the Mayor, just noting that there is that you had a previous motion to the same effect, which has been adjourned. So that's
right.
still sitting as adjourned until the workshop takes place, which is scheduled for the 15th of October.
Yeah, so I'm looking for. I couldn't find the actual number. I've got down 125.23, but that was the one in the minutes that was all it says in the minutes is that we adjourned the motion to after the workshops, and now that's 17 months ago, and this issue was prior to that, before I raised that motion. So what I want to do, and what the right word is, Ashley, I'll leave that up to you, but to basically resurrect that and put it to the vote and let's get it going again, because I suspect even after the workshop's going to say we shouldn't do it, and I'm going to be doing this either now or in November anyway.
I'm looking at the governance officer. We have an adjourned motion around this subject. It says, right, as if we've got an adjourned motion.
It's
got a
it's
bit of a
one
difficulty.
124 of 23,
Yeah.
Oh, 124.
but it doesn't actually have the wording of the motion. It just says that it shall be adjourned.
Yeah, it's good because I couldn't find that. All I could find it was in the agenda.
It would have been in the agenda.
Yes, I've got the wording from the agenda. Yeah, May 2023 agenda. Well, just while you're searching, the committee was unable to reach a decision about what its future should be. That was clear in the notes of the time. And that an alternative composition was something they were interested in, but nothing was ever put forward to them about what an alternate composition would look like or how it would run or, you know, any sort of structure behind that. So without anything, it just simply ceased on the day and nothing went forward. So you've got this group of people that still meet, still have discussions. I know they can put in CRMs and all of that, but us as councillors no longer find out really what is going on with that hall unless we hear from them directly or it's just in conversations we have with each other. And I think it's an important asset in our community. It's certainly well loved by the people of Canalpin, and you've still got a group of people that want to do something and be responsible for providing information back to council on that asset.
Reading the so-called adjournment. We're having a workshop, Ashley, in a month or so's time around Section 41 committees, governance of them.
We've tried a couple of times.
They've been delayed because we can't get speakers, can't get councillors here, can't get variety of reasons.
Mr Mayor, why can't we just leave the existing motion we've got there and get on and do it?
Through you, Mayor, I can respond to that because the committee has got.
Workshop's taking place,
Hang
you
on.
know, workshop.
This shows the importance of a proper adjournment process. But a proper adjournment process means it comes back immediately next meeting and it continues to come back. Unless it's named as that, and unfortunately the dates have slipped on us.
Specify.
You,
Rescheduled to October 2024. It's next month
But the
in that motion, in the comments.
notes in the previous time said about a year ago.
Yeah.
We've had
That's
trouble
right.
getting us all here to do this and to getting the right people.
And I don't accept that, Mayor, because we have been together as a group many times since then. It's not us as a council group that
don't-
has not been able to get together.
Don't know that it's necessarily just us that we need to have here for that.
From the point of view of Canalpin, Mayor, this is not really anything that needs a lot of thought. This is a group that want to continue, ought to continue, have the enthusiasm to do it. And it doesn't, all it requires is us to say yes, and then we can start getting some information back in the chamber about that asset. At the moment, you only get what I send via email, which is what I'm getting from the people that represent that little group.
The German party, not the adjournment
not there, that would be in the minute.
in a minute.
So it's action on the minute action.
It's back to a broader.
When's is the October workshop scheduled for before the next council meeting? Yeah, same date.
What date is that? The 17th?
8th of October.
Same date.
Unless the workshop's going to suggest and recommend that the council reinstate that committee, I'm going to be making the same motion then as I'm doing now.
I'm going to ask you to defer your motion until that workshop.
For what reason?
Positive. I'm reading minute. Move councillor Roundtree, second councillor Gaunt. The item be adjourned until after the scheduled 41 committee workshop has taken place.
And I expected that to be a lot
I
sooner
understand
than what
that.
it was, so I don't accept
Understand
that.
that.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment?
Yes.
The workshop is regarding terms of references for section 41. The existence of a 41 is a completely separate matter. And I do concur with councillor Roundtree. This has been kicked down the road far too long. This was something that was supposed to have been dealt with in the first 6 months of this chamber meeting. And we're almost 2 years in. So I do think it's a completely separate issue to what we're looking at the workshop.
I understand what you're saying. The workshop will detail how the terms of reference of section 41s will be dealt with and
How they run.
how they're run.
Mr. Mayor, the workshop's not just about the one
I know.
committee, it's about all the section ones committees. So, you know, like it's pointless to pull one out. And then you've still got the other 5 or 10 or whatever you've got to have a look at. So
Have
why
any
not do
others
them all
been-
at once?
Have any others been cancelled other than Canalpin Hall Committee? So it's only the Hall Committee that's been cancelled. The rest of them still exist.
Oh, no, the cemetery committees. The cemetery committee really
All went.
dissolved.
Or they dissolved willingly themselves?
That was probably 4 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
more or
that's,
less.
Canalpin Hall Committee did not dissolve willingly. They were unable to reach a decision. They were very conflicted and not happy at the time. And they remain that way.
Miles, you're going to say something?
Oh.
Well, I consider my position.
Trying to work out perfect words. So, and I was involved in meeting with the committee, as you know, and very carefully went through what a 41 needs to do in terms of being committee of council and what the options were as well. And I think part of the problem is that I seem to see the existing committee reach the conclusion that they no longer wanted to continue as a 41. And we parked that, knowing that we were going to do the full review. I haven't heard until now that they'd altered their view and they were considering to be. That's not what I had heard. There are alternatives, and that's part of the process that we could re-engage with them. And I had talked about, being friends group. There's a comparison here with Pangarinda, because Pangarinda are indicating they no longer want to be at 41, but they still want to have a connection with council. And so they're being volunteers and potentially a friends group, and there's a process we can go there. But I'm quite happy to refresh the dialogue with the Canalpin group. I think they're a very valuable group of people who should be interested in the hall. That's great. All I want to be able to do is in a format that, whether it's a friends group or whether it's 41, that it's set up in accordance with terms of reference, that if it's a 41, terms of reference that are compliant with the Local Government Act, and that we support them in terms of being a committee of council. It's quite happy to engage with them again. Like I said, they're a valuable group.
Councillor Peach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I must pick up on something that the director just said through me. I have raised with the CEO before that the Section 41 committee did not want to shut down. That is what they verbally said to me. They were upset with it. So this is not new information to council. This is old information. I believe that it is up to the council to decide if we want a Section 41 and that's the structure we want to operate under. Yeah. And again, back in those early conversations, we have raised, both Councillor Roundtree and I, on a number of occasions, that the engagement with that committee going forward did not occur. That they were offered, and under sufferance they accepted the offer of a different model, and that model did not take place. And this is my view, obviously, not speaking for the chamber, but I view Section 41 committees as being the appropriate vehicle for accountability and feedback to council. And I would like to see it established.
Your last comment before I tell you what can do.
So just further, I think what the director has touched on with the Friends issue and the Friends group would have been acceptable had it occurred at a time when that committee ceased being a Section 41, we should have really rolled straight into, and here's the new structure, and this is what it means for you, and this is what we want you to do. Like we never did it. We just simply wiped our hands of it and walked away, and then kept kicking it down the road for workshop after workshop and not dealing with it. And it's now resulted in a situation that I think we do need to deal with it. And whether we have the workshop next month to talk about the terms of reference or not, this is still going to be something we want to do, because it is a council asset. As Councillor Peach said, it is the appropriate structure to deal with an asset of council, and you've got a willing group who want to do it. So I don't see the workshop delaying it for one more month isn't going to solve this problem from my perspective.
Okay. Two parts to my response. I'm going to decline the motion. I have that ability. I would suggest you could move it as a motion with notice for the next ordinary meeting. I note that we have, you moved an adjournment motion till after the workshop. The workshop is scheduled for the next ordinary meeting date, which we're just checking now with the information we'll need will be changed around potentially from the old 5 o'clock starting till an after 10 o'clock starting.
Sorry,
I
Mr Mayor.
think it
the
should be
next
put up
meeting-
as a motion with notice.
Next meeting.
The next meeting's still 3 o'clock, Mr Mayor.
It's not, November starts at 10.
Sorry, I wonder you see you get me bush now, so I'm going to decline to accept the motion. Anyone else with motions without notice?
What basis were you declining, sorry?
Because I don't think the councillors have had appropriate time to review the process, and because you have a motion on the books to adjourn it till after a workshop. Two parts. Motions without notice, I'm still on, councillors.
Mr Mayor, if I can prompt my fellow councillor.
Sorry, what was the-
Well,
Motion
I'm aware there might be something else coming. I'm not.
Oh, heavens to Betsy. Right, yes. I'm a bit blown. I wasn't expecting you not to accept that one, actually, so it's
So motions without notice
thrown me a little bit.
is entirely in my purview to defer.
Thank you. So the motion I've indicated to by email is
Via
the
email.
urgency motion
Chaz.
around not ceasing and desisting with the work to cut off the Canalpin caravan park. So at the moment,
You got a motion.
but well,
That's
that's,
been circulated prior to the meeting.
yeah, I've already
So
circulated
you
it in the
You just word for
email.
everyone's benefit now, please, or Ashley, can you
Do
read
you
it,
want me to
please?
get it? I'll go find it and bring it up. I
Just-
thought it would already,
We've got it formally, Ashley can read it, it'll be fine.
okay.
I wasn't clear on what your motion was. It just said alter the scope of works.
I would like to alter the scope of works as to not put that fence. But the scope of works that's changing is to not block off the existing area where people put tents and vans that don't require power. So at the,
Mr Mayor, there was a 3-part motion in the email. It was in a photo form within the email.
To me, email to the CEO, who was the email
You
to?
have it, me, but here.
Yeah, I might have it, but
Mr Mayor, can I just?
no, you can't yet.
Well,
No, just
let me
wait till we.
just find
how
it.
can we vote on the motion?
we will-
Well, I'm just going to get the words for
Wait till
you.
we get the
They've got it, I've just
words.
gotta- It's going
Be
to find
fair
it. I
to the
thought it
councillor,
would already be up
Hey,
there.
I'm here. Hey, Tank. Be fair to the councillor, it's been foreshadowed, and I think that's entirely reasonable as a motion without notice has been foreshadowed, as I understand, to all the elected members. So,
Yes.
so given it's a motion of minor works that may happen at any stage, otherwise, I think it's reasonable to deal with it today.
All right, I think I've, gosh, I can't even find it. Mr Mayor, would it be appropriate to have a couple of minute break? Well,
Sorry?
would it be appropriate to have a 5-minute break while we deal with?
No, we're right.
Yeah.
No, we're just going to tidy this up.
To Bridget,
I thought I had,
And I've
next
responded.
email.
could you work? As I'm formally requesting.
I might
Work to be done.
possibly have, but my computer's booted from my
Then I'll
car at the
forget.
airport.
No.
Oh, I see.
So hence I'm on paper.
Well, I didn't get it.
We'll be moving.
I think it was sent straight.
Got the wording for it.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up now.
I have,
Mick's got it there. He was just reading it.
Mick's got it, so.
Sorry.
That's the same thing, I think.
I will be moving a motion.
What is the actual motion?
That's all it says.
So with altering the scope of works, I think I made it clear, not have that fence block off. This whole thing is about not blocking off the caravan park where people are currently camping and putting their vans.
So let's get a motion first so we can debate it.
There's three parts to it. Around consultation.
From the one, that's all.
Sorry, you got it there.
I don't even know why I can't
That
find it.
initial email.
Or what you want to cease.
Yeah, cease putting a fence up.
Between
No, one of them had it attached. Hang on, I'll see if I can.
disadjusting the on cemetery land, is that right?
Councillors, I'm going to take councillor Bland's
Hang on, I've
for a
got
short
it.
adjournment while the councillors confirm it up. 5 minutes, please, councillors, from
Okay.
4:34.
I'm sending it to you now, Ash. I've got it.
4:34 to 4:40. Leave of the meeting.
Hugely.
Thank you.
I'll do it.
Okay, Sharon.
Hey, Joel.
Are we mates this week?
Is it from?
Yeah. we're ready to go. Thank you, councillors, for that short adjournment. Resume at whatever time it is, Kim. 5. So after that adjournment, we've got a motion that's been worded, moved by councillor Rountree and seconded by councillor Peach, that point 1, works to establish a fence around the wider area of the Canalpin Cemetery be urgently suspended until a full report is presented to council on the financial and social economic impact of the town, and in particular to the area available for free camping. Point 2, report explores options for amending the existing boundary of the cemetery to allow extra space for campers. And point 3, Canalpin Soldiers Memorial Swimming Pool and Caravan Park Committee is appropriately consulted. I'm going to accept that motion, councillors, but I'm going to make this point, and this is the only one I'm going to make. We need to be extremely careful in assuming that the process of resuming what is cemetery, dedicated cemetery land, usually in the care and control of the Crown, sometimes I've noticed in the report in our freehold title, can be used for other things. We need to think through the consequences of that. And I suppose at this stage, we've not quite dealt with that at Canalpin, as the free camping or the camping or whatever it is has moved up towards the existing boundaries of what people would know as the cemetery, but the cemetery grounds are considerably larger. So the process of point 2, for amending the existing boundary of the cemetery to allow extra space for campers will be a very long process. Just ask councillors to think about what do we do in the interim to deal with people camping on what is a cemetery ground. Okay, my comments for what it's worth. Councillor Rountree will start the debate because she's the mover.
So thank you, Mayor. I just want to also, with point 1, I think we should just put on the end of that sentence, because it's just occurred to me, to remove the 2 signs that have been installed that say no camping beyond this, or no camping, I think it's no camping beyond this point. I think those signs have been placed there and it's not fair. People have been camping, so this is now part of my reason to support the motion. People have been camping there for over 30 years. In fact, it's probably been longer. I'm also told that a lot of the bushes that were planted there for the campers to put tents around were planted there by children from the Canalpin Primary School years ago. We are not running out of space in that area for burials at all. But we are running out of space for a very much loved and used and growing considerably space, which is the Canalpin Caravan Park. The town relies on that park now. There's a lot of people there. They get a lot of business from people that camp there. And to put up, when you drive in now and do the loop, there's actually already tracks that lead out to that area now, which has signs up saying don't go there. But there's tracks that have been put there by council to let people go to that area. It makes no sense. There was nothing wrong with it before. I don't understand why this has come up as a problem now after all of this time, and why we're making an issue when there was never an issue there before. So with point 2, that the report explores the options for amending the existing boundary, I think it's very fair and reasonable to do whatever process has to happen to make that happen. Because limiting that park or forcing everyone to sort of huddle up together is what that park doesn't need. The people, I went down there and spoke to the people myself and talked to them. What they love about it is its openness, the ruralness, spaciousness, all of those things. It's a very unique park, I'm told, for campers. And we as a council should be doing everything we can to support and expand and encourage that area, not put up ridiculous signs that say you can't park there, you can't put your van there, and we're going to put a fence up. It's ugly and unnecessary, and we've made a mountain out of a molehill because there wasn't a problem beforehand.
Councillor, can I just ask you a question? How do you feel we should deal with the fact it's a cemetery reserve?
Well, why are we?
Today and still is.
Sure, then why haven't we dealt with it before? Why have we encouraged campers there and now we're suddenly not? I don't understand what started the problem.
Ask you how do you think?
Well, I don't think there is a problem that we need to deal with. We're not camping on people's graves. We're not within the fence line of where the grave sites are and the burial area is. There is land all around it. People mow the lawns. They drive tractors across it to mow the lawns. People are simply spending some time camping in a beautiful spot. It's detracting from nothing. It is hurting no one. It is simply a wording issue. It's been zoned a particular way. It's doing absolutely nothing wrong. And those campers are bringing more to the town than they are taking away. And I want to see us fix the problem. I do not want to see this reduced at all. So how should we deal with it today? Do what we did last week, nothing, and let it just continue.
Councillor, I'm going to go to Councillor, you had a question, Councillor Hara, because Councillor Peach is the seconder, that's why.
Yeah, are we talking about different people every night or permanent?
It's a variety. The
Because-
permanent people have moved on.
Because every free camping spot that I've ever been to have got a limit of 2 or 3 days to be free camping. If they're not there longer than that,
Which sign we could put up.
they shouldn't be free.
I'm going to go to Councillor Peach because he's the seconder, so he has a right to speak.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I will address the point just made. In the current instance, the person that had been there permanently is now moved into the paid section of the caravan park and is taking up room there because he's been told to move on from that particular site. So it's actually condensing the area used. I also went and spoke to some of the caravan park patrons on Sunday, and I will pass on their thanks and appreciation to council staff for the work done in maintaining that area. That was repeatedly brought up. My concern here, Mr Mayor, is why has this been done in the way that it's been done? We have a 41 committee that is responsible for the caravan park. They weren't consulted. We gave an answer to a member of the community that indicated a certain way, and that's turned out to be incorrect. Now, I do thank the CEO for the information sent out, and I think it's important that we work within parameters of this motion to achieve change so that we can continue to use it in line with appropriate land use. We're not talking about walking over a sacred area or camping on that ground. That is clearly delineated within that area of land. And I struggle to see why we've got to this point. There's been signs that said no camping before in that location, but they have been deep within that title, not on the boundary. Envisaging the fence while standing on the ground there is the outcome of this decision is going to make this caravan park an incredibly small and pokey area. And if you look at one of the motions we've got on the books about expanding it with another 5 powered sites, if we were to do that, I think we would actually run out of room as it presently stands. So fully support the motion. I look forward to seeing what comes back around how we can move forward to maintain it as it was. I would seek to understand why this action has taken place after such a long period of it being used. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I think I'm going to go to Councillor Bland after that. Yep.
I support this motion as well, and I understand that, we have spent significant monies improving the caravan park and the pool, and we should be maximising the space where possible. I would be surprised, and I may be totally wrong, that we ever run out of space within the current Canalpin cemetery, and by adjusting the land usage, and I understand that it is a cemetery reserve, and I am sure that an appropriate officer could look into the processes to do that, and it may take some time. But I do believe that we've put a significant assets there, and we need to maximise that for both community and council to use that. I would be very surprised, given the population of the area at the moment, that we are going to be short on cemetery space. So it's a process really to go through.
Thank you. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll be supporting the motion also. Just like to make a comment on point 1 there. What I am voting for is that it says full report is presented to council on the financial and social economic impact. That full report is very important, that get to know more about the facts. I don't know the area that well, and I think we give the chance for the chamber to go through it because I do have some sensitivity, should say, about encroaching close to a cemetery. So I want to get that more delineated and defined to make me feel more comfortable. And also, that's where point 2 comes into that. So long as we go through it carefully and show sensitivity and respect, I'll still vote for the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Councillors haven't spoke yet. Councillor Arthur?
I'm not in agreement with this. I think the staff have done the right thing by putting the signs up that you keep off the cemetery. The cemetery is a designated area. Now, if we want to go to try and get that, the same sort of thing as we're doing with the homes account, we'd have to go to the minister, and it will probably be a very, very large cost to the council. Are we getting money back from it? Maybe. People will say, you know, we've got enough room. You go to every caravan park in Australia at the present moment, there's not enough room. You go to York Peninsula Council, for example, talking to them at the LGA, every bit of parking ground they have got, you pay $15 for. Every bit of a park. If it's a dry, say for example, Culburra, just that dry land, you will pay $15. Because the cost of the council at maintain are just going up and up and up. The other thing is, I've got no problems with the caravan park doing very well, but the cemetery is a cemetery, and to try and encroach on that or get it changed is not a good look from the council. And as far as the staff putting that up, they've done the right thing. I don't think they should be worried about that. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor.
Samir.
Councillor O'Hara, yep.
Yeah, I'm in two minds on this, and I'd really like to go and have a look at it before I vote on it, really. When I got halfway there yesterday and Blake flagged me down and wanted to weigh a heap of cattle, so that was more important than having a look, but I really would like to have a look at it before I vote on it. But I understand that you want to get it over with.
I'm in a very awkward position. Councillor, you're saying you can't vote because you haven't been appropriately time to consider it.
Mr Mayor, I know I've already spoken, may I provide one more piece of relevant information?
It just is a relevant bit of information, not a debate point.
The area that is currently gravesite fenced is 0.22 of a hectare. The entire area is 2.75 hectares. So that's the area of land compared to.
Caravan park area.
No, the area that's zoned cemetery is 2.75 hectares. The area within that's within a fence where the graves are is 0.22 of a hectare. So it's 2.5 hectares of currently non-used land in that area.
It's about taking a small portion.
I'll be honest, I can't understand why anyone would want to camp in a cemetery.
Well, it's not through, Matt. It's not, doesn't look like a cemetery.
not,
The
it's
cemetery is
in a
actually
cemetery.
fenced off.
This is in a fenced area, and the rest of it is a cemetery reserve.
And as you drive into it, and there's a roundabout, as you drive in, there's a track that leads you into the park where people who don't want power pull up their vans or tents. Yeah, so they've actually encouraged to go that direction. This fence runs, if it goes ahead, runs straight down the side of the U-turn and pushes everyone to one side and just leaves all of this grass and tree and shrub, beautiful area, out of bounds because it's marked as cemetery. Now, people have been camping there and putting their vans there for over 30 years. And then all of a sudden, it's a problem.
Councillor, we just need to wind it down up, or I'm looking at Councillor Maidment being the only councillor that hasn't spoken. She
No,
doesn't need to.
listening
Doesn't
to
need to, and I
you,
might
Mayor.
take it as she has or hasn't.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I've been listening intently to this, and I'm happy to vote with the motion. I think we just need to have due process in any council decision, and I just don't think we've been given that option in this case.
What part of the process are you uncomfortable with?
Number one, we haven't had any council reports coming this way to us
This is a big.
before a decision was made financially or socially. So I think we need to get some more information before we.
As long as we understand that the 0.1 will take a considerable amount of work.
It
Well,
will.
you, Mr Mayor, I guess also, have any of this work started or?
Yes.
We've engaged a contractor.
The contractors surveyed the area, but haven't put the posts in the ground yet.
Not in a physical sense. No is the short answer. Okay. Councillor O'Hara, I need to sort of confirm that you, I'm counting the people who already said who they're going to vote for the motion. So I'm sort of taking that as a bit of a guide. Are you happy to vote against it or abstain or leave the room or just, or go away cattle or whatever?
I don't know.
I understand your position, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I really would like to look at it. I'm not against people camping there, but
I'm going to take it that we need to move forward.
Would you accept the motion to let it lay on the table?
No.
I don't have a choice about accepting. Table, I don't believe, do I, Ash? It's a formal motion.
Then on table, a formal motion be brought back. Bring it back.
Bring it back.
Otherwise we adjourn it
So-
until,
But I don't have a choice of accepting a formal motion.
no, you have.
I don't.
You could,
Councillor Arthur, are you moving a formal motion for this item to lay on the table?
I'd like to move that this motion lay on the table. Can, further investigation.
Adjourn or lie on the table? We're actually quite clear on that.
Oh,
Because lie on the
adjourn. What is
table
it?
needs another
Lay on the
motion to bring it
table,
back.
is it, or adjourned?
Just
So
get this
through the mayor,
advice.
if it's laid on the table, then
Yes.
the council will need to move another motion to bring it back and
Bring it
make
back,
it
yeah.
live. You just adjourn it, then you just need to put an action against it, bring it back. So that action may be until a site visit has been undertaken or something like that.
Oh.
Through you, Mayor, what does that
What is the
actually
difference?
achieve when point one is to do a bit of work around what it all entails anyway?
So councillors, what I've got is a councillor that is not really prepared to vote because
Hmm.
they aren't fully across the things and I'm obliged to take it. So I'm going to take it as an adjournment motion
Yeah, there we go.
until a site, we have to put the words in, don't we, until a site visit is undertaken.
Vote against it.
Adjournment motion from councillor Arthur, which is a formal motion. So there's no further debate, councillors, if I get a seconder,
Absolutely.
until a site visit's taken, the reason for the adjournment. Move councillor Arthur that. There a seconder for that formal motion. Councillor O'Hara is the seconder. Councillors, there is no debate on a formal motion. Is to adjourn it until a site visit is undertaken.
As a matter of urgency too.
Well,
Oh, this will just drag on.
okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Yeah,
there a
councillor O'Hara seconds. Fine with that. Those against? So councillors, that formal motion is lost, with councillors Arthur and O'Hara voting for the motion. And councillors Bland, Peach, Roundtree, Maidman and Bomans. I was going to call you something. Voting against it. So it is lost. So we revert to the motion. And I haven't yet asked councillor Peach to close debate, but I feel we're at that point, councillor.
I need to close it.
Councillor Roundtree, Mayor.
What did I say?
Peach. I closed.
You.
I'm closed.
Okay, councillors. So in relation to the move, councillor Roundtree, second councillor Peach, 0024, I can see, I put that motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. So it's carried, councillors
reverse.
Bland, Peach, Roundtree, Maidman, Bowman voting for the motion and against was councillors Arthur and O'Hara. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, minute action list, councillors. Oh, sorry, I haven't asked if there's any other motions without notice. I should have. Taking that there is none. Minute action list on the following page, item 14. Councillor Peach.
Two items I wish to bring to your attention, Mr Mayor. The first is the resolved issue completed Country Health Connect service update. While I understand that the intent of the motion has been completed, could we have that taken off the completed list, please, and put back on active pending the response from them? So that's 176-24.
7624, are you?
Yeah.
You are awaiting the response formally from them. as I
Yeah, I'd just
understand
like to see that back on the active list if possible. The other point, other one I'd like to raise at the moment, Mr. Mayor, I was trying to find the number again, sorry. Is, here we are, 179-24. I note in the notes that it says that the historic bins that were allocated to properties are all collected by the waste contractor. That wasn't what the council has requested. So has that been, have those bins been collected? In the first instance, and subsequent to that, can we restate what we are actually asked for, which is that investigation was taking place to find out how they were allocated in the first place so that we could manage the process of working towards the new model.
That is not lost. It's just that we thought that you would do it all together. Because the reason they were allocated in the first place may or may not be relevant now, but it will form part of the information that we provide to you about what to next.
No worries. The way I read this, Mr. Mayor, is that we are actually taking the bins off of people that they already have. So what I'm hearing is that I may have misread that, or that's not the intent.
Through you, Mayor, once we discussed it, we probably the reason the bins, this particular set of bins was issued in the first place may or may not be relevant. We know that the contractor does pick them up because we pay for them, and we know that. And then the next part of it is we wanted to come to council and probably through a workshop in the first instance about how do we go forward with this. So there's probably some options around grandfathering those bins, giving notice about that we may not pick them up 12 months or something like that, or do nothing and just leave the status quo to remain. And tied in with that, we know that those bins are aging, so they need a replacement strategy as well. So it was really tried to bring the whole thing together as a package rather than attempt to look at just one issue in isolation.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe I've misunderstood the word collected here. I took it as they were taking the old bins away, collecting them, that's referring to waste collection.
Anyone else with a minute action list, councillors? There's nothing else.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I will raise one more point if nobody else is going to.
About the minute action list?
Yes. 173-24, as I'm sure my fellow councillors would have seen my emails on this matter. I am very disappointed that the motion, which was the decision of the chamber, has not been acted on, and that we are going back to yet another workshop. And this is now going to mean that we've delayed this whole process from when this was first brought up 5 to 6 months. And I just want my frustration around that noted.
Certainly. And I think that liability scheme process is due in the next process of presentation.
I want to say within the next fortnight.
I think it is pretty soon, councillor.
First of October.
1st of October, councillors.
What number was that one?
That was item 173-24 being the Christmas banners and poles in Tintinara.
Certainly. Okay, anything else on the minute action list? Right. We move to confidential items. Councillor. Second.